Well, a few years ago I was pregnant with my second child, and I was trying to find out information about some of the things that I'd missed out on the first time round. And one of the things that I hadn't used last time round was cloth nappies, and second time around I thought I'd look into whether I could use cloth nappies for my second baby. So I tried to find out information in my local community. I couldn't seem to find anybody. I couldn't seem to find a single person who used them, or a single person who was actually wanting to advise me on which ones I should be using. So in desperation, I think I did what lots of other people do, and I turned to Google and put cloth nappies into the Google search box, and 2 million hits came back. Very overwhelming, but within that I discovered this thing called online discussion forums, specifically geared to offering advice. I thought that would be all it was, on using cloth nappies and whether that was an appropriate thing for me to be doing. And as I looked and found out more about this online social networking tool, I started to realise that yes, there was certainly information and advice available. Also, what I hadn't actually expected to find was a lot of support from other users and a real sense of community, in the sense that we all seem to bond and share our experiences in a very supportive, anonymous, non-threatening environment, which was extremely empowering for me. As I became active on the forum and started posting not only questions but answers to questions, I felt really quite emboldened by the process, and able to actually think about taking what I'd learnt about using cloth nappies in this case offline into activities such as giving demonstrations to antenatal groups who are with new parents, trying to think about ways of educating them to use cloth versus disposable nappies. I talked to the press about it. I was on the radio talking about it. All of these things seem to come out of an unexpected consequence of my using the forum. And I suppose what I wanted to do next was to discover, is this just me? Is it just the forum? Or is there a broader agenda here that we need to be tapping into? Is this something that is useful for others to know?
So Louise approached me about some experiences she had had using online forums, and it had been really an empowering experience for her. She had discovered that she felt so supported by that online community that she had found, and also that she had then taken that into offline action. And she said, "Do you think we could do some research on this?" And I said, "That would be great, because I'm really interested in the ways that people come to feel identified with other people and really merge their sense of self with others and find a community. And it seems like that's really what's happening in the community online." And Louise said, "That's exactly what I thought was happening in the community online." And so we designed a longitudinal research study that was funded for 2 years to look at the way that this online identification can really emerge over time and can go on to impact people's well-being and satisfaction with life, and also the translation of that into their offline action and being a better citizen.
Between us, we started to think about more defined research questions. How and why do users start to use discussion forums? What is it they get out of them? And along the way, how can organisations possibly begin to make use of these forums to galvanise their users and get them working for them? Jessica was very positive about this, because the online communities is not something that she'd actually been involved in researching before, and I think we thought it was a very good match of our interests to develop this quite unique opportunity, in fact, for us to be working together and targeting an area that research had actually forgotten about, really.
So for the past 5 years, we've been looking at a variety of online discussion forums. After Louise discovered that they had all these wonderful benefits, we wanted to document those benefits, and also as social scientists to hopefully explain where they come from and what's driving them. So we looked at forums having to do with hobbies like golf or muscle bodybuilding, which is one of my own scholarly interests on the side, and forums having to do with using cloth nappies, or as we say in the US, diapers, and also forums having to do with more serious issues, potentially stigmatized issues like mental health or postnatal depression, or any of a variety of things like that. And looking at an array of forums, we discovered firstly that identification is often incredibly high. So that really confirms and supports what Louise had experienced anecdotally on her own, that people really become engaged psychologically with other members of the forum. And then secondarily, that downstream from that, you get a whole host of benefits flowing from feeling identified, from getting needs met that you didn't even know you had necessarily or didn't think you could meet online, including connectivity and sociality and support, to intrapsychic needs like well-being, and also community type, these aren't needs, but community type benefits, like then translating that into offline impact. So then of course we had to ask thirdly, what is the explanation for those things? And we really developed a model in which identification drives the benefits. So the more you identify with the forum, the more those benefits occur. The longer you're on the forum, the more you identify, the more those benefits occur. So it really is a dose-response thing. The more you use the forum, the more it works for you. And I just have been overwhelmed by how little people know about online discussion forums. Once you start asking people and telling them you're doing research on this, it turns out people are sort of secretly using these forums all over the place, but people don't really talk about it that much, and it's always been looked at as a techie sort of an activity. So nowadays that's really not true. 1 in 4 American users of online anything and 1 in 10 UK users are actually using online discussion forums.
So a few years of our research now under our belts, I think we're in a stronger position to start thinking about the consequences of our research and how we can help inform organisations who might be needing to think about ways of better serving their own clients, and possibly thinking about using these kinds of online discussion forums as a way of connecting their own customers and getting them to develop and sustain their own communities online in a way that will enable them to feel much more bound to the organisation, much more supportive of the organisation, and could possibly have benefits downstream in terms of harnessing these people to work for the organisation in a way that perhaps organisations might not have thought about before.
We were able to work with several forum partners, ranging from forums like the Green Living Forum to forums run by NetMoms, which is a sort of umbrella group that runs several sub-forums, including postnatal depression forum and also a mental health forum. And both of those, members of both of those forums were incredibly cooperative. We followed them over the course of really years. And what we can really see with the mental health forum and the postnatal depression forum, for example, is that these are forums where people post thousands and thousands of posts, and you can really see they wouldn't be able to have these conversations with people who are geographically close to them. These are just not the kinds of things you can talk to your neighbors about, but you can post here on this forum, and that's why these forums have so much activity, and also why they're really providing so much benefit to people.
So what we'd like to say most strongly is that online discussion forums represent the ultimate grassroots mechanism for organisations to transform their users into public advocates working in the community.